It's not just about being smart, it's about getting yourself out of scary places. That's what leadership's all about. One of the most important concepts in leadership that we'll study in this class is called emotional intelligence, and it's credited with the article of Daniel Coleman that you've read in your On Leadership book. It's a very, very good article, and it's got some very important ideas. Essentially, it's this. You know, when we were back in the great man theories of leadership, when we were back in the divine right theories of leadership, even when we were back in the trait theories of leadership, we mostly thought of leadership as something that was in your head, and the smartest person in the room was the best leader. And so I often heard analysis of different presidents, especially William Jefferson Clinton, as they were always saying that he's the smartest guy in the room. He's always the smartest guy in the room. That's always a liability, too. To be the smartest person in the room means you're seeing things that other people aren't seeing, and it bringing them along is always a problem. Well, what Coleman tells us is that it's not just about being smart. It's just not just about being head smart. It's being heart smart, too. And that's where this idea of emotional intelligence comes from. And you've seen in the readings the sort of basic summary of that. It comes from actually learning styles, and that how we began with learning styles. We learned that people learn differently, and then we eventually went on to think, well, maybe they lead differently too. And so the first element of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, that ability to know yourself, to understand yourself, to know what your strengths are, to know what your weaknesses are, to know when to ask for help. That's a real important aspect of leadership. And that ability to be self-reflective and look at yourself. And so Coleman says if your emotional abilities aren't in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you're not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are, you're not going to go very far. I think that's pretty good advice. We all know really, really smart people who spin their tires all the time. And we also know people who are mediocre in terms of intelligence, and yet they are able to get a lot done. Second aspect is trustworthiness. Second element is self-regulation, and that includes trustworthiness, okay? That ability to regulate yourself, to regulate your emotions, to calm yourself down, to not be angry. Yeah, be angry, but then bring yourself into control. And then become trustworthy, to have integrity, not just ethical behavior, but integrity. I'm not going to do that. I think it's the wrong thing to do. To be comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty, to know that the world doesn't have answers sometimes, and that you're going to be thrust into situations where you have to say, I don't know. And to be openness to change. And then based on that ability to self-regulate, you also have to have that ability to motivate yourself. To say, even though I don't understand fully what's going on here, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to get up in the morning and work hard. I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to do those kinds of things. So we're a little bit in trait theory here now, where we're talking about emotional intelligence, the ability to be not just intellectually, but emotionally intelligent. Finally, Coleman says that empathy is very, very important. That ability to understand others and to have cross-cultural sensitivity, to have an orientation to customers and clients, to understand what they're going through, to understand what other employees are going through. Being really, really empathetic and understanding empathy is important on that. And then we get to the idea of social skill. Now, with social skill, I just know how important this is, and I'll tell you why. I worked for a university president at Utah Valley University. It was Utah Valley State College when I went there, named Bill Cederberg. He went on to be the head of USU, the head of all universities in Utah. And he had come from Michigan. He was not a member of the predominant religion in Utah. He had come in as a former university president. He had been in the legislature. But if you go way back to his childhood, he was a very shy, inhibited, tall, lanky, funny-looking guy. And that experience of being picked on and bullied made him strong and made him decide that he was going to learn how to get along with others. And he described to me how he went from, as a sophomore, being the bully, the one who was being picked on, to when he was a senior in high school. He was the one that all the girls wanted to hang out with because they knew they didn't really want to go out with him, but they knew that he would introduce them to the ones they wanted to go out with. And so he learned very good social skills in putting people together and helping people get together. And he masterfully executed the transition of UVU from a college to a university by going to the legislature, by playing tennis with the now Governor Herbert, by just hanging out with the right people and doing the right things. And that served his career for years. And he was also a joy to be around, somebody who was fun to be around. And so as I worked in his office, I was an assistant academic vice president. He would occasionally just come down the hall. And it wasn't just with me, it was with a lot of people, and say, "You want to go get an ice cream?" And what that really meant was, "You want to go talk?" And you'd sit there and talk with him for an hour, impromptu, leave your work on your desk, go talk to the president, hang out with him, have some fun, and then you'd go back to work feeling great. That's social intelligence, and people who can do that can get a lot done through others. So you have those 5 different aspects of emotional intelligence that's really, really important.